Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Writers Chat. We're so glad that you're here with us, whether you're here as part of our community live or you're watching the replay. My name is Johnny Alexander. I'm joined by Brandy Bro and Melissa Stroh. We're your co-hosts today. And Melissa is going to introduce our very special guest.
Good morning, everybody. And I'm so happy to get the chance to introduce our guest, Ben Cooper. He's one of our regular members, and we always enjoy having him here. He's just got some great stories and encouragement, always an encourager. But for those who maybe aren't familiar with Ben, I'd like to give you a little introduction to him and what he writes. Today, he's going to be sharing with us a little more on that. But Ben Cooper is a Christian husband, father of 5 adult children, a beekeeper, speaker, and author. He retired early to market his first book, so he thought. He is expecting to hit 11 books in 6 years by the end of the year, including a bi-monthly column for an author's magazine. And today he's going to be sharing his writing journey with us about abundantly more. And I'm just really excited to hear about it and learn more about what brought you to this stage in your writing journey, Ben. So thanks for joining us today. We're eager to hear from you.
Well, it's a pleasure and an honor being asked to come again. I look back and saw that December 2021, I did a session. Bethany asked me to do a section on getting endorsements. And, because I didn't know, so I had to come up with my own way to do that. And still, that's a big question mark for a lot of authors of how do you go about getting endorsements that don't include your mom, your grandma, your English teacher, and others. They are important people in your life, but in probably not too many other people's lives. But my journey is a long journey, probably a lot like yours. And during this session, I'm going to share, I kind of 2 weeks ago prompted some of you, I think in the after party, that I wanted to share a writing technique that I did that's a living document, as I call it. And I add to it as milestones or things in my life come to me. And I want to share that, which I think Rachel might be the only one that's ever seen that, but she'll have to be bored to go through it again, but added some photos to it through a PowerPoint presentation. And hopefully that technology, I'll rely on Johnny for her expertise for that. But my writing journey actually started in 1993 when I published. I'm a sci-fi fan, Melissa. I don't know if you know that or not. If I turn my camera, you'll see a Star Wars Stormtrooper helmet, some Star Trek figures, but I actually wrote a Star Trek collector guide of trading cards. And had probably the 3rd largest trading card collection in the world. And then kids came along and I sold most of that and bought Lionel trains. And the kids got to enjoy that. But I wrote a book, a collector guide, and that was truly self-published in my basement with a copier. And we didn't have all the different things that we have available to us today. But I always, for 20 some years, I had this nagging desire to write a devotional guide to animals in the Bible. And so I would take notes many times during church when a thought would come to me, or 3 o'clock in the morning, whichever was appropriate. And I'm sure the pastors that we've had over the years thought I was such a great person because I'm taking notes from their sermon, and I was on a rabbit trail that was making sure that those of us that are of the age, if you don't write it down, you might never get that thing back. So I wrote it down, but it took, and I shared this before when I did the other one, it took my second cancer diagnosis to get me focused on writing. That second cancer diagnosis, it was prostate cancer. I had 3.5 months to wait for surgery. anybody that had any kind of sickness and you have to told that you have to wait. There's a process that cancer takes most people through, a 5-step process. And one of those steps is you want it out of your body as quick as possible. You want it gone. And to be told that you have to wait 3.5 months, that will drive you insane unless you have something to occupy your time and your mind with that. So I traded worry with writing, and I got busy writing my book. I was still working at the time. I thankfully had enough years that when that book came out, or when it was due to come out, I retired November 1st, 2018. And here's a dilemma. I can't say, did my book come out in 2018 or it became available to purchase, not pre-purchase, but to purchase January 2019. And as I shared with some of my comments that Melissa wanted me to write about, what am I going to talk about? I thought I was a one and done book writer. I don't know if anybody ever started out that way. And, if I could just get one book done, and I really already had a book, I sold enough copies of that Star Trek Collector Guide to actually make money. And I think it was less than $50 that total. But I went through the Library of Congress and copyright and went through all that stuff myself and printed it and used a spiral binding machine to spiral bind it with the hopes to update it and write more. But the industry went out and got card crazy and kept putting cards and collector cards. I said, I'm done. And I quit collecting cards altogether. And like I said, sold some of those foreign cards, especially sets from back in not complete sets, but cards from back in 1967, and stickers and cards in other countries, to invest in line out trains. Because at that time we had a couple boys. We only had one boy, but we had 3 boys and then 2 girls. But the boys loved the line out trains and playing, and that consumes your living room or whatever space you have, and they love playing with that. But they couldn't play with collector cards because no, you can't touch it. It's got to stay in its plastic acid-free folders and card holders, and so I got busy with writing All Nature Sings, and it was a serious writer convention or a workshop in Ohio that I went to. Never been to one before. Kind of a little bit unnerving, but that book came out and actually won first prize in Christian devotional at that conference. That first book, surprisingly, it's kind of like deer hunters that go out and say, I'm going to try this hunting, and they shoot a record deer the first time. They might as well just sell the gun, mount the deer, and be done, because it's never going to happen again. But that book earned 5 different awards. One of them was,
Wow.
4 was from Christian work. The one most exciting is Illumination Award for devotional, silver medal, and one was from outside of the Christian world, which I got a 3rd place for that, or 2nd place for that. That came with some money and a certificate. So those things are nice to have. I call that book bling. Up on my shelf behind me, there's some that's laying down. Have some book bling, but that's not what writing, as you all know, is about. That helps to build your self-confidence if you lack it, but the commitment to writing. And like I said, at Ohio conference, Serious Writer Conference in Ohio, I thought, now if somebody wants to throw sticks and stones at me, they can virtually. It's not going to hit me, so I'm not worried. And I talked to Michelle Medlock Adams about it, and I was encouraged. She wasn't at that conference, but talked to her since, and she said her first 45 books, she didn't have an agent. She didn't even have an agent. And so a lot of conferences you go to, they tell you, schedule your time with an agent, and and I just never felt, I tried a couple, and one of them at the Ohio conference looked at my book, All Nature Sings, and she said, this would make a really good children's book
Hmm.
and do children. So that stuck with me. She wasn't willing to say, "Hey, send me a blurb and or let me know when you get something written and maybe I'll take you on as an agent." But she did what she needed to do in giving me that idea and planting. And that's what's so great, especially about the Christian network of writers. Um, they're not holding everything in for themselves because they want to box somebody out in position to get something. They're so willing to share. And she influenced me to start writing. And I thought, what a great idea. So Created Critters series came out from that. And so the first one, Created Critters with Wings, um, includes birds and insects. And I'm going to do a little bit, it's not calisthenics, but I'm going to get up so you can see. But this is a bee shirt, but if you look closely, it's filled with words behind it. And so people that know me, it's all about books and bees. Um, Another profession would be about the birds and the bees, but we're not going to go there today. But
Not on Writer's Chat.
not on Writer's Chat, and unless it's clean, clean Christian romance novels.
Yeah.
But I don't write those. I don't think I'm called to write those. I don't really even read those. I'm more of a science guy and devotion guy, and that's where I'm drawn to. But I got picked up by Shine a Light Press. What a great company, publishing company. It's a husband and wife. I was drawn to them due to their target is homeschoolers. My wife raised and homeschooled our 5 kids. Her goal, even though she has a college degree in I call it for she has a college degree to deal with crazy people, and that gave her the reason to marry me. And probably I'm her life work, but uh, helping that helped also for her to homeschool our 5 kids. But I wanted to write this book because there's not a whole lot that takes the Bible and science and puts it together. And so All Nature Sings is a devotional of animals in the Bible. And some of them are my experiences with those animals. And growing up on a farm, getting an ag science degree, working 32 years for Department of Agriculture in the state of Maryland. And I was one of those guys that got paid to walk on people's farms and help them with their production, with their water quality issues, with soil quality issues. And 32 years, somebody had to do it. So I got paid to work with farmers, and that part I miss it. The government part, I'm glad to be gone, especially before COVID. But so interesting enough, I do teach since 2012. I've been teaching beekeeping classes at a local college. And one of my students was a local art teacher for the high school and quite gifted. And she took my beekeeping class. She ended up, I find out that she's a 3rd-generation beekeeper, her dad, her grandfather, and an artist. What a great culmination if you want to write children's book. And Shine a Light Press, now this doesn't happen everywhere, but Shine a Light Press allowed me to pick my own illustrator.
Nice.
And so with Sandy Arnold, she does graphic design and graphic art. If you're not familiar with that, it's not pencil, it's not painting, but it's a layer of color added to the next color, to the next, and it in the right viewing, it almost looks 3D, but she will draw the simple design, then add layers of colors. And someone said, well, that was just copied or generated by a computer. No, she does this. And she's a beekeeper, and she helped me on All Nature Sings. Some of the sketches in that book were from her. Some of them were my kids' drawings that they all draw extremely well. It's partial talent, but it's a learned um, skill. Almost anybody can be an artist. My kids for homeschool watched Mark Kistler, Imagination Station. If anybody ever heard of that, he can teach everybody to draw. My middle son, bored during church, as most kids are, used the back of a bulletin at 10 years old, and he drew a character of Albert Einstein, and people knew exactly who it was. And it's not that he's that talented, but they learned the classic form of art education, and they were able to do that. So my kids, Sandy Arnold, and then whenever I wanted to write this children's book, the first one, Created Critters with Wings, I asked her, could you put a hidden honeybee in every one of the pictures? So it's a Where's Waldo kind of beekeeping style. And what a magical thing, because how many of us grew up reading Highlights magazine and loved that find the hidden picture thing? And so that worked out well. And I love getting photos of kids that just won't put the book down. And so that was done and produced really quick during COVID 2020, fall of 2020. The second book came out a year later, Created Critters with Fur. That has a hidden mouse in every one of the pictures. And it has the ending verse is the same. And I'm going to turn my head, read my book. Here's Created Critters with Fur. As you can see, that's Sandy's picture of the fox that I just blew up. But I love how the ending, each of these in this series ends the same way. And I'll bore you with reading it. By the way, I think somebody by the name of Rachel M. Colby, an award-winning writer, was one of the persons that endorsed this book, and Jack Foster, who's been an artist for over 100 children's books and has won many awards. But the last phrase is a key phrase that goes in each one of these books and any future ones that I write. Animals that differ with fur, fin, or feather have learned how to live alongside of each other. Their habits, their food, their homes aren't the same, yet God knows each one and he calls them by name. Each turtle that hatches and crawls to the sea, each colt that is born to run wild and free, all come to exist in the air, sea, and land by God's mighty power and his loving hand. Yet we are unique, quite different and odd, because we were created in the image of God. And
beautiful. Yeah. Yes.
In the back is pictures of real children, and there's two different children in the back of each book. The first two, I let my artist, my illustrator, pick the two children. Those were students that she had that showed promise. The second were people that I knew. One of my farmer's daughters that was cowgirl from the boots to the cowboy hat. I mean, she was just farm girl, cowgirl. And what I refer to as my Caribbean son, my son in the faith that on a mission trip came to know the Lord and spent 7 summers with us. They were just here Monday and Tuesday this past week. He preached Sunday in Cleveland, Oklahoma, put 5 kids in a van and drove 17 hours and showed up at our place on Memorial Day at 5 o'clock. And then Wednesday turned around and went back home. But one of his children are in the book. And so it's a blessing. They don't market their book very well, and because it only goes to homeschool kids and conventions. But Shine a Light Press is a joy. Chris and Andrea Elston are great people to work with. I call them up. You know, if you ever worked with a publisher, trying to get them on the phone is a challenge just to start with.
Yeah.
I think we sent emails back and forth for the first book at least 30 different times. And I said, could we pray at different steps along the way? And prayed with them over the phone. And what a joy, because their heart truly is in Christian literature and homeschool kids. And so the Southwest gets to see some of my stuff, and it doesn't come out this way because they don't travel that far. But those three are what I say. Those are my book babies. The other books, some of you in the group have had the pleasure of knowing Yvonne Lehman and Grace Publishing. And I never got to meet her, but talked to her on the phone and collaborated with her with one of her Moments books, the series that she would always put out. There's no royalties, there's no accolades really that you get, because any proceeds go to Samaritan's Purse, which that was perfectly fine with me. The second book is coming out this year, one of the Moments series, that tells the story of me going to another country on a mission trip to work with young teens. And then that 14-year-old boy ended up spending 7 years to come to the United States, stayed with us, and worked at a local summer Christian camp to do the same thing here in the United States. And now he's the pastor. And, it's kind of a full circle kind of a story that a blessing to see how those you invest time in grow in the Lord and minister. But along the line, a couple years after the first book, my dad sent me a clipping saying there's this thing that Guidepost has that you could write something and maybe get awarded a trip to New York City. There's a place I really isn't on my destination. I've been there once, and I can check that off my box and don't want to go and spend a week there. But it sounds glorious for a week of training, and it doesn't guarantee you that you could be an author for Guidepost. I don't know, Johnny, if you went to that process or.
I tried out once years and years ago before I'd ever been published. A bunch of us decided to send in whatever they were asking for, some kind of essay or something. But no, I did not win, so I didn't get to go to New York.
And that's, to me, that wasn't the thing that I was going to New York. I wanted to write for all God's creatures. That's what I wanted to do. It fit my own writing style and the animal stuff, related stuff. And so that story is unique. I finally found out who the editor was and sent a message, and they said, I sent a message on a Friday, and that message came back to me pretty quick, that said today was the deadline for auditions. That's what they call it, auditions.
Yes.
If you can write 3 devotions by next Friday, I'll accept them. Oh, okay. That's putting a lot on. I got those done and submitted them by Thursday, 3 of them. Sorry, guys, the phone's forgot to put the phone away. And now it's dropped on the floor. And I kind of thought, well, that was hurry up quick. I didn't spend much time. And Johnny or anybody else that's written for Chicken Soup for the Soul or Guidepost and tried to get in, the key is follow their guidelines to a T. Even down to the Times Roman, New Times Roman font, 12-point font. You deviate from that, it goes in a round foul. They don't even want to listen. They have too many reasons to reject hundreds and hundreds down to a few. With Guideposts and All God's Creatures, the only time they have openings is when somebody passes away or they choose not to write any longer. So there may only be 2 openings a year, and they would have a lot of people apply. And so I wasn't so concerned whenever I didn't get accepted that first year. And so the second year, I was on the spot. I got the information and put it in a month ahead of time. My 3 auditions or devotions, and was not selected. And the third year came around, and I kind of said to myself, this, if you've, shake your head or to yourself. Most of you are muted and not on screen. But I thought, well, my writing isn't good enough. So I thought about it many times, but I just said, you know what? It's not good enough. I'm going to save myself the heartache of another rejection, and I'm not going to submit. And the editor for All God's Creatures, John Woodham, sent me a message 1 week before the closing of the auditions. And he said, are you entering this year? And I said, no, I kind of decided that maybe my writing isn't good enough for Guidepost. And he said, no, I think it is. Why don't you write? So here I go back to the same thing. I got 1 week to come up with 3 brand new devotions dealing with animals. And about 3 weeks, I submitted it Thursday. I'm one of those people, Johnny, that submitted before the deadline. It's just in me to do that. And I submitted it on Thursday, beat the Friday deadline. And within 3 weeks, he said, if you're interested, we'd like to welcome you as a writer. Once you become part of that network, then you get inside information. You get first chance at writing at any of their other books. And you also automatically, well, I won't say you have to agree each year to write, but I really think that is the place where God directed me all along. And if you write for Guidepost or Chicken Soup for the Soul or some of those other publications, it kind of muddies the water when you have an agent. That makes it a little bit more, that means that, does that agent get some of your money? And I'm thankful that I don't have an agent and it doesn't muddy the water. And I don't have an agent, and I have, by the end of the year, we'll have 11 books out in 6 years. And I'm writing a column for a magazine. By the way, that magazine is the Pittsburgh Press. Lori Hayes is on the cover this month, and it's free right now. I think it's in print and in available online. But Jacqueline Terrell is the editor, and she's working with this. She retired and working with this magazine. So look up the Pittsburgh Press. That's Pittsburgh without the H. It's an incorrect spelling of Pittsburgh, because there used to be Pittsburgh Press newspaper that was defunct years ago. And look that up. And all you have to do is, well, there's 2 things. If you're interested in marketing your book by being in an author's magazine, and most people will have to pay a $25 application fee. But you could be on the cover of a magazine. And like I said, Lori Hayes, a beach writer, is on the cover this month. And my article, I did a devotion that I actually preached this past Sunday at a church that's without a pastor. And I did a devotion. It didn't start out as being Christian writers, but you would recognize a lot of the Christian writers that are in that and focus on it. And she's still gaining her footing on magazine writing. And Connie Clyburn, with some of you know her, she does a magazine on Southern Appalachia. And I did an article for her on beekeeping and swarms in the spring issue, the issue that came out almost when it was summer, but that's her. She tried to get that out, but she does it very well. Connie is really good at photography, and so she takes a lot of the pictures, and I was very impressed with that. So some of the writing is when you go out and do some other stuff. I'm also write for Vine Words, and they've done 2 books. with some of the devotions. And so there's openings every once in a while. For that, I tell you, I am not a fan of SEO. I do not like having to form into that. And another one of the writers helps me with that. But I only do a few. And I know Cynthia's on here, and Cynthia's part of that as well. But SEO, in my opinion, I don't need to know it for guideposts. I don't need to know it for my stuff, but other people need to know it for their style of writing. Because if you look at some of the call outs, that's a requirement, especially if you want to be a paid writer. That's some of the requirements. And sometimes this old dog doesn't want to learn new tricks, and that's one of them. And so that's kind of my writing journey. I'm in my happy place because I will tell people, you know, I'm writing and living the dream, and that includes beekeeping as well. And I'll kind of say, excuse me for coughing, how many people say that they are an author and speaker? And only once in a while that speaker thing comes up, or they're timid. I think Melissa would be a great speaker. Even though she worries, and there's other people in the room the same way. But just to share, Johnny, when you want to take those 2 weeks off, or I mean, or whatever time you have without any
Yeah.
work to do, or Rachel wanted to take 2 weeks off. I have 3 preaching engagements this month. I have 5 beekeeping children's programs to do this month.
Oh.
I have committed again to an outreach where I sit right here, and from 2 o'clock to whatever time in the morning, 10 hours behind, I will be doing Vacation Bible School in Pakistan.
Wow.
Writing leads to other things. So many other doors that open up. Don't be afraid, or maybe be afraid to say, God, what else do you have for me? He will open up the doors. We talked about my wanting to write for homeschooling for our own kids, but I think of this work in Pakistan as being a home missionary. I don't have to raise ungodly amounts of money to live 3 times above my price range in some other country that they would rather just kill Christians anyways. But I can do that versus through via Zoom. And last December, I did it with 130 slave orphan children that worked in a brickyard, and to be able to see them and see them respond and engage with them is an amazing feeling. It's just as good as when somebody reads what you've written and says how important this was to them, that moment. So I want to take the time, a few minutes that remain, and I'm looking for the share my screen button, and somebody's going to have to help me.
You may have to move your cursor just to get that bottom menu to come up, and it should be
Yeah.
green. Yeah, find it.
Let me get one thing up first
Yes.
and share my screen. If I can, it takes a minute for me. I'm so technical. I rely on my kids to do all my
Your tech stuff. There you go.
my tech stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to do this from start at the beginning,
Okay.
and you tell me from my, well, I won't be able to do it from that. I can't read it. It takes like a kaleidoscope picture, and I can't even read it. So bear with me if you can see that. But I hope you've heard of where I am from. This is before I ever wrote my first book, and I started on this. This is my living journey. You just start with the preface of where I am from. And so, and it develops from there. It allows creativity, allows your uniqueness. And so I'm going to read through this and go through this and share. You will know me by the time I'm done with this. And you might even agree with or say, hey, I've been there, the same thing. Where I am from penny candy, red licorice fish counted out by hand at the general store that carried everything. So I thought. I am from a multi-generation family farm from a 2-mile stretch of pavement that dissected cropland pastures, woods, yards, and streams, from the rural life where cattle outnumbered the people, from a place where neighbors would stop and talk or lend a hand, from a much slower time and place. I am from a well-trodden path directing me from the home to the farm and beyond, from Tonka trucks and pedal tractors to a bicycle with a banana seat, and my first car, a 1972 Plymouth Valiant, from a wooden bench swing hung year after year from the limb of a maple tree, from black and white television with rabbit ears. I am from cutting mallow cup points and anxiously waiting for them to come in the hot summer as they melted along their journey to our mailbox, from returned glass soda bottles and redeemable green stamps. I am from rows of sweet corn planted and hoed and grown for 4-H, from selling it by the roadside and giving an extra ear for every dozen, known as a baker's dozen, from proudly showing it at the local county fair in hopes of a blue ribbon. I am from oversized work shoes bought for my ever-growing feet during the last week of school to protect them on the farm, from being told to take care of them because they had to last the entire year. I am from large family gatherings at holidays, from sitting at the kids' table until I had kids of my own to take my place, from seeing out-of-state plates on the cars in the driveway nearly every weekend. I am from watchful eyes as a dozer shaped a 12-foot deep pond in a pasture field that would serve as a place to swim, fish, ice skate, and enjoy for years, from learning those same skills to survey and design farm ponds in another place so that the same benefits would carry on to a new generation. I am from Penn State University. A chance to experience more than I ever expected, a place that broadened my scope of education and shaped my vocation, a taste of the vastness of the world our awesome God created. I am from stewardship, from being taught how to care for people, land, and animals by my father, grandfather, and great-grandfather, from strength, hard work, and tender compassion for all living things. I am from Adam, knowing at 12 I needed to be saved by faith in Jesus Christ, from answering the call to serve him here in the Caribbean and online, from Jamonville, an annual glimpse of heaven with sweet fellowship, from a country church inside the city limits where the old hymns are sung, the word of God preached, and baptisms are done in the creek. I'm from Fombell, Pennsylvania, United States of America, from British immigrants who migrated here over 125 years ago for a new life, from loved ones, I'm sorry that that's in there, who have passed away but not forgotten, from sweet iced tea and Young's frozen custard, from Wayne and Shirley. I am from Vitality, from a drawer full of 10K race t-shirts and a pile of running shoes, from caving, backpacking, and seeking the road less traveled, from birthing classes with Sonia and welcoming 5 children into the world. I am from Cancer, from an invading force that humbles all who stand in its path, from experience the blessings of the mighty prayer army that moved the heart of God, from surgery, bone grafts, radiation treatments, from cards, letters, phone calls, and emails from family and friends who weren't afraid to show their support, from dear departed friends that fought a much tougher battle than I, from reaching deep down inside and using my faith in God to fuel my recovery to where twice now I have proclaimed 5 years cancer-free. I am from words crafted by emotions, inspiration, and thought that came together in the form of a book. From seeing pages come alive with the anticipating of to hold the finished copy, from getting my first, second, third endorsement from well-known people with a much larger following than myself, from hearing the response of unknown reader that expressed joy in reading what I was inspired to write. I am from the dust of this earth and will return to it someday. And as long as God grants me breath, I will do my best to please the one who created me. So that's my story.
Ooh.
I'm
And
sticking to it.
thank you.
Yeah, that you're a poet. For sure. Wow.
So any questions or comments or
Well,
Lots of comments. You quite a few of us teary-eyed, Ben.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, why don't we have everybody come on, and then if you want, if you have something you want to say, we can have you do that. So if we put you in writer's chat jail, as we call it, please let us know so we can get you back out again and open that door for you. Ben, that was just absolutely lovely. Yeah. Somebody, I just saw it scrolling, said that they had assigned students that kind of exercise. That's not something I'd heard before. So it's like, my experiences are a lot like yours as far as the farm and 4-H, and those kinds of things. So I was feeling very nostalgic as you were reading and kind of homesick. So yeah, that was just beautifully written. Thank you.
Cynthia, do you have a cold?
Do I have a what?
I asked Cynthia if she had a cold. I saw tissue up by her face.
Oh.
Yeah, it's named Ben. That
Aw.
was beautiful. That was beautiful. I've never thought of that as a living document. I'm the one that said that I used to assign my students
Okay.
to do that at the end of the year. And dig deep. What are you about? Where are you really from? But I've never thought about having mine and continuing that process. So
Did anybody notice there
but
was something missing? I give you a clue.
The bees, yeah.
I haven't wrote anything
haven't
about
written anything
bees,
about
even
the
though I've been
bees.
involved with them since I was 14. And
Yeah.
people know me as a bee man, but that needs to be worked into it. That's why it's a living document.
Well,
Mhm.
I kind of noticed that it was in there because it was on the book with I saw the image of it, so it was sort of in there.
Yeah.
The words weren't, but the image was.
I love, like, especially when you said I come from vitality, and I thought, what a great word that is to use in that context, because some of the others is like, oh yeah, you come from the farm. I forget what they were, the farm and da da da. But when as soon as you said vitality, I thought, wow, that is so cool. And to tie that in with the birth of your children, I think that was one that just also just was like, how imaginative and creative to think of using that word in that context. Like,
I mean, what a great exercise in general for
yes,
writers to do, and anybody
yes,
else, really.
yeah,
That could be a future writer's chat
it could,
assignment.
it could.
Come right with us.
Yes.
Where are you
How
from?
many people can raise their hand and say, yep, I got those melted mallow cups, saved those points and sent them, and they came in a melted mess in the mailbox in the middle of summer.
I
That's
know about that.
throwing humor in there as well,
Yeah.
because you're disappointed, but you're still, I don't care. I'm a kid. I'm going to eat these things anyways if they're melded together.
Mhm.
And you just had to peel the wrapper part off, but just try to glimpse. And so true. The general store had everything that I thought you needed.
Yeah.
Everything. And then as you expand and your borders expand, you see, wow, there's a lot more in this world that my little 2 mile stretch of cows would surprise me. So
Well, and trading stamps and rabbit ears. So those of us who remember that are sort of like, giving away our ages. I remember that for sure. Oh yeah, double bubble gum wrappers. Okay, Melissa put Ben's link in the chat. So anyone wanting to check out his books, and for those of you on the replay, of course, you can go to Amazon and put his name in and in their search bar, and you should be able to find those. The chat will be on the Writers Chat Facebook members group in there. So
just beware. Ben Cooper also used to be the guy that had his name on all the Halloween masks,
oh,
costumes and masks for
really?
decades. I'm not that guy.
Not that Ben Cooper.
Not that one.
Just Ben Cooper Bees or something.
Yeah.
I was commenting when you said earlier, do you have a blog named Books and Bees? Because that would be a great name for a blog.
It would.
blog.
It
If you search All Nature Sings in Ben Cooper, you'll get him.
Okay.
That's true. Yep.
Or there's a lot of books with the title All Nature Sings, and a lot of it deals with music. But if you do created critters, there is no other title with created critters, and you'll find me.
Good.
but-
I love this. David says his triplet grandsons need more books. For one thing, I love that you have triplet grandsons, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, you check out Ben's books for those boys. How old are they, David? Oh, you're muted, but if you don't mind, have three. Oh my gosh, 3-year-old triplets! I can't imagine.
It's the height of triplet hair pulling, right?
Oh, that's hilarious.
But triple the joy as well.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure
Yep.
that's true. What fun. What fun. All right. Anyone else have any questions for Ben, comments, things they'd like to share?
Rachel, will you unmute?
All right.
Thanks.
Ben's been incredibly instrumental on my writing journey, both as an encourager and as an example. And an example of a Christian, an example of faithfulness to his call, an example of how to talk to people, how to minister to them. I'm just eternally grateful. Really blessed to call you brother, Ben.
Yep. Rachel's my sister that I never had.
Oh,
And you actually, your piece that you read today actually played in the back of my mind until I wrote my I Am poem, which is not done. And today, listening to you read it again, I'm going, I started where I was, where I am, and went forward to where I'm going, but I really didn't go back in it, which is the difference between what I wrote and what you wrote. So now I'm sitting there with these words tumbling through my head. There you go again, Ben. Ben did a very powerful thing for me once to encourage me to get my act together writing.
How'd that work out for you?
I have them saved. They're all saved, and sometimes I go through them. But he made a graphic. This man that does not have time to spare made a graphic with a scripture on it. And he inserted my name in the scripture and sent it to me every morning at 9:30 for, I believe it was a couple of weeks, 3 weeks.
wow.
And I saved all of those. Very, very powerful. And I have his children's books and his adult book. I take him to our church nursery sometimes.
Anybody else?
And I was going to ask how you get started with columns in magazines. It's something that I am interested in doing, and I don't know how to. Do you just query them with ideas or?
A lot of times the magazines themselves will have in their cover or back pages contact information. And if you're interested, you could contact them that way. It was great that Jacqueline Terrell was just starting this, and I volunteered. She's not at the point where she can pay me, and I'm okay with that. But I've been writing pencil because I'm helping, again, going back to that Christian connection. It wasn't Christian. And what I mostly write about is tips along the way that one of my last ones this year, I illegally sent it to Rachel because it becomes property of the magazine, but told her not to share it. But my thoughts on AI, writing with AI. And bottom line, I think it's cheating. That's just who I am. I think it's cheating. Amazon, if they know you wrote it in education from high school to college, they can tell if it's been written by AI and it's considered cheating. So why so many people do it? There's some benefits to help you do some background information, but tips that I give in Jacqueline, and that the Pittsburgh Press would be a place if you wanted to start somewhere. Contact Jacqueline, say, hey, would you be willing to accept me writing an article? And that's what I did with Connie Clyburn's All Law Y'all. That's the name of her Southern
That's cute.
magazine that she just recently started this past winter, and for a year. So find somebody that you connect with that you feel that your writing, Leslie, would benefit in their magazine. And most of the time, if it's a well-known magazine, there's going to be a lot more chance of a rejection. But especially some of the smaller ones, I encourage people to build a writer's curriculum vitae. I don't know if you know what that is, but every time you write something, you write it and you document it. I'm so old school. They're on 3.5 by 5 index, 3 by 5 index cards, but it tells the date, it tells the title, it tells, I'll ask for what the circulation is of that magazine. What you're also building is, if I write for Guidepost All God's Creatures that has a circulation of 60,000 people, and I write every year, that's that platform that people want, publishers want. And so 60,000 from 2023, 24, 25, 26 starts to get in that 500,000 people that they want, and saying, oh, this is somebody. But have that, just like that I am from, think of it as my writing includes, and then document all that. And so when you have it, you don't have to guess, when did that article go into this obscure magazine? You've got it down on something, and maybe save it to the cloud rather than a 3 by 5 index card. But build that for yourself, so that if a time comes along where a publisher says, what's your platform? Now you've got some hard evidence, and you're diversified, not just writing a book, but doing a column, doing maybe a feature article or something.
That's good advice. Yeah. And then I know, because we've talked about just within recent weeks, Norma is looking for articles for Almost an Author. Do you want to just real quick, like a minute, talk about that, Norma?
In fact, Almost an Author has an award-winning writer, a SALA award-winning writer right here, Miss Rachel Colby.
Couple good editors.
An article she submitted to Almost an Author won a SALA for article, online article. So we are looking for pretty much anything. We have everything from support type of articles to how-to in genres, from grammar and editing points of view. We have a gal that's writing for me that's doing an article every month on creative writing space, on how, you can start at your dining room table, but make it, do things to make it creative around you. All you have to do is go to almostanauthor.com, and all the way to the right on the tab, you'll see submit. And if you'll click on that, that will give you our guidelines. We ask for about 900 words. It's about, I'm not going to reject you if you go over to 1,000 or something. But as Ben alluded to already, please follow our guidelines. I remember the first conference I went to, I heard this over and over and over and over. And I'm like, what's the big deal? You just follow the rules. Well, now as the editor, I see why they emphasize it so much. I had a man send me something, and it was looked like it could be a really good article, but he kept saying, well, I've read your guidelines, but he kept submitting it wrong.
Mm.
And I'm like, please go back and carefully read about how to submit this article. And he still, and finally I said, I'm sorry, we can't use your article. Because after 3 or 4 times, if you don't get it, I'm done. But so yes, Ben, man, that was spot on. And I've learned what that's all about. But we would love to have you. You can be a guest. If you want to get your feet wet, you can do a guest post. Or if you really would like to be a regular contributor, the guidelines that spell everything out is right there. You don't get paid for it. It is one of those free things, but you are building writing credits. And excuse me, you can, we just claim first rights. So after, I believe it's 60 days, you can take it back and do whatever you want with it. But you can share the link to Almost an Author on all your stuff. If you want to share that article right away, you can just do it sharing the link. After the time is up, then it's yours. You get it right back. We don't keep it. So there you have it. Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah.
Norma,
thank you.
do you take reprints?
Yes and no. We
Gotcha.
do, and on the guidelines it says we don't, because we're trying to keep people from just mass sharing the same thing everywhere. But if it's been a while since that's been printed, then absolutely, yes.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Good question.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, thank you. So, well, again, Ben, thank you so much. I love these episodes we're doing. We call them the writer's journey. We have people come on telling about their unique experiences, because we want everyone to see it. Everybody talks about disappointments and about almost wanting to give up. And I saw a little bit in the comments even today. It's like, just kind of at that place. I don't know where to go. And it's like you have to keep. You can't stop. I mean, if it's what you really want to do, because you just don't know. If Ben had not gotten that invitation to do the guidepost thing for the 3rd year, he wouldn't have done it, and his whole trajectory would be different than what it is. So, if it's in your heart, and listen to that, keep at it, be persistent, be patient. And it. I love the part in Ben's story where he talked about the agent who said this would be a good children's book, and there was something in him that went, yes, it would. You need to listen to those moments and not ignore them or dismiss them, because that is your spirit speaking to you. And if that wasn't something he was interested in doing, oh yeah, I don't think so. It's probably because it wouldn't have, and he'd have a different journey, but it could still be a great journey. You just don't know. But I just really, I feel that moment sometimes in my heart, and I just want people to listen to it and say yes. So, thank you, Ben, so much for sharing yours. I love to. I mean, I have an agent. I'm very thankful for her, so grateful for her. But I love that you were sharing a story also where you have these books, they're selling to the homeschool market, a lot of them. You don't have an agent, and yet you're having this very, very satisfying and wonderful writing experience. And so that's great too. So there again, there's no mold, there's no one answer. Everybody's got their own journey, and there are going to be valleys, and there are going to be stumbles and rocks and boulders, but keep
The hard one to deal with. I know people that they're starting out and they want to be a New York Times bestseller author.
Yeah.
Okay, might as well try out for the Olympic team while you're at it, you know.
Yeah.
But that's not where that's never been any of my goals.
Mm-mm.
I truly think, and you probably all agree it, that the best, like I call it, the best author bling you can get is when somebody
Mhm.
contacts you and said, man, what I just read that you wrote, I'm so thankful because I needed it and I needed to hear it now. And that gives you purpose to continue on. And you gotta, when a door opens up, even if you're not sure, you got maybe turn the handle a little bit and see if the door opens up. Like Leslie, if you want to write articles for a magazine, don't wait for them to contact you. You've got to go out there
Yeah.
and try the handles on a few things and see what opens up. But first and foremost, and I again warn you, pray about it and
Absolutely.
ask God. If you pray that I'd like to do some speaking too, I hope you don't have. My speaking schedule is 43% of every day in June. I have, on average, 43% of the month of June, I'm speaking somewhere.
Wow.
I'm speaking at PJNet tonight. And, and I encourage you, if you've never offered or just go to PJNet, talk to Barbara Byers, and they'd be willing to have you. It's not as bad as it is what you worry about, right, Melissa?
It's great. I love that experience.
But there's openings there for you to just have a different type of platform, and 20 minutes isn't really long. So
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. All right. Well, again, thank you for being here today, Ben, sharing your story, just being so inspirational and encouraging in so many different ways for, I think, all of us, no matter where we are on our writing journey. Next week is synopsis writing with Dr. Catherine Hutchinson Hayes. Catherine has been with us a couple times before. She's an amazing person, great speaker, great teacher. So very excited. Writing a synopsis, as many of us know, is one of the hardest bits of writing that you can do. Trying to, you've got like even a 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 100,000 word novel, and you've got to put it down into just this very, very short 2 or 3 pages and hit all the high points. And, it's still one of the least things I like to do when it comes to writing. I can write a blurb better than I can write a synopsis, honestly. So yeah, be here for that for Catherine. Those of you watching the replay, we're so glad that you are. We thank you for that. We do invite you to join us anytime that you can on Tuesday mornings. We're here at 11 o'clock Eastern and so forth. We'd love to have you join us. We just thank everybody who is here. Also, you're invited to join our Writers Chat Facebook group and check out our Writers Chat Facebook page, where you will see all the videos, and they're all on YouTube. And we have over 300, I said last week, or this is the 300th episode or something. So, and that's just the ones we've recorded, because we do have a lot that aren't, well, not a lot, but we do have several that we don't record. So yeah, thanks everybody for being here, and stick around for the after party. Everybody else, we'll see you next week on Writers Chat.